Forget everything you've been told about safe money. In our last deep dive, we exposed the BRICS gold game and how the physical foundation of the dollar is being eroded. But today, we address a much more immediate threat. As the dollar's supremacy fractures, most people are blindly rushing into what they think are safe havens, only to find they are walking into a liquidity trap. We are entering a period economists call the Great Currency Pivot. Historically, the transition from one reserve currency to another is never a clean handover. It's a period of violent volatility where paper wealth simply vanishes. Look at the data. For 80 years, the dollar was the world's only global utility. It was the only way to buy energy, the only way to settle international debt. But that monopoly is dead. Today, we aren't just looking at the rise of new currencies. We are looking at the death of fiat trust. In this episode of the Shadow Vault, we are going beyond the surface. We are uncovering the 3 specific currencies that are being positioned to survive the global reset, and more importantly, we're exposing the traditional havens that are secretly becoming liabilities. If you are still holding 100% of your net worth in Western-aligned fiat currencies, you are betting against the most significant geopolitical shift since the end of World War II. Let's start with the most misunderstood haven in the world, the Swiss franc. To the casual observer, it's just another European currency. To the shadow banker, it is a fortress. Why? Because Switzerland is the last major economy that understands the commodity-to-currency ratio. While the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank have expanded their balance sheets by trillions in unbacked digital entries, the Swiss National Bank, SNB, maintains a massive portfolio of physical gold and diversified foreign assets. Switzerland holds roughly 1,040 tons of gold, which sounds impressive, but the real metric is their gold per capita, which is among the highest on Earth. But there's a secret layer most people miss, the 2015 Black Swan event. In January 2015, the SNB abruptly unpegged the franc from the euro. In seconds, the franc surged 30% against the euro, wiping out thousands of traders. That wasn't an accident. It was a defensive maneuver. Switzerland saw the euro's structural decline years ago and decided to insulate themselves. Today, they are doing it again. While the West pushes for retail CBDCs to monitor your coffee purchases, Switzerland is testing wholesale CBDCs, a system designed to protect institutional liquidity during a systemic collapse. When the dollar faces its next leg down, the franc is the primary exit ramp for global capital. It is the only Western currency that still acts like real money. Now we must look east, where the most aggressive challenge to the dollar is taking shape, the digital yuan, ECNY. Western media focuses on the surveillance aspect of China's digital currency. This is a distraction. The true purpose of the ECNY is the total bypassing of the Western financial infrastructure. For 50 years, the US controlled the world through SWIFT, the messaging system that settles global payments. If the US unplugs you from SWIFT, your economy effectively ceases to function. China's response is CIPS, Cross-Border Interbank Payment System. CIPS is not just a competitor, it's an alternative financial universe. By integrating the ECNY into CIPS, China has created a system where a barrel of oil can be bought in Riyadh, processed in Shanghai, and paid for in digital yuan, without a single byte of data ever touching a US-controlled server. This is the commodity-backed pivot. China is the world's largest manufacturer and importer of raw materials. By forcing trade partners to settle in yuan, they are backing their currency with the physical reality of trade rather than the abstract promise of debt. In the last 24 months, non-dollar trade between BRICS nations has surged by over 300%. This isn't a trend, it's a structural migration. The ECNY is the architecture of the New World Order. Finally, we must discuss the Black Swan that will complete the reset. The BRICS unit is the most ambitious monetary project in human history. The unit is not intended to replace the yuan or the ruble in everyday life. It is designed to be a reserve settlement asset. Think of it as a modern version of the Bancor proposed by Keynes, but with a hard asset twist. The secret proposal for the BRICS unit suggests a backing consisting of 40% gold, and 60% a basket of strategic commodities, including oil, copper, and rare earth minerals. This is the ultimate checkmate against the dollar. Why? Because the dollar is a liability-based currency. It represents someone else's debt. The BRICS unit is an asset-based currency. It represents physical energy and materials. In a world where energy is becoming more expensive and debt is becoming unsustainable, the market will always choose the asset over the liability. We are seeing the formation of a commodity bloc that controls 40% of the world's GDP and the majority of its natural resources. When they launch the unit, the demand for dollars to settle international trade will vanish almost overnight. This is the snap we warned you about in our first episode, so how do you prepare? The shadow vault strategy isn't about getting rich quick. It's about geopolitical neutrality. If you live in the West, you are naturally long on the dollar and the euro. To survive the pivot, you must balance your financial mirror. This means holding assets that exist outside the Western centralized banking grid. It means understanding that in the next decade, the value will move from the financialized West to the resource-rich East. You need to diversify your liquidity into the Swiss franc for stability, the yuan for trade utility, and physical commodities for insurance. The transition from the British pound to the US dollar took decades, but back then, information moved at the speed of a steamship. Today, the transition moves at the speed of fiber optics. The global reset is not a television event. It is a quiet rearrangement of the world's ledgers while you sleep. By the time the headlines announce the new system, the opportunity to enter will be gone. If this analysis has shifted your perspective on safe money, hit the subscribe button now. You've seen the gold game, and you've seen the currency pivot. But our next investigation is the one that hits closest to home. In our next episode, The Real Estate Trap, why the next crash starts with your house. We will expose why the walls you live in might be your biggest financial liability in the coming decade. This is the Shadow Vault. Stay informed, stay prepared.